As an officer, if you don't give yourself space, you set yourself up for a real hard time. Hi everyone, welcome to today's badge cam lesson here at Active Self-Protection. I'm your host, John Correa.
And I'm your co-host, Mike Williver. Today's video comes to us from Fairfax County, Virginia.
Today's video is sponsored by Delete Me. Delete Me is who I use and trust to help me protect myself and my family from the ravages that can come from data brokers selling your information. I've used them for all of 2024 to help me stop data brokers from selling my information to third parties, and I recommend them highly. We all have a right to protect ourselves and our family from harassment for our personal and political views, as well as from identity theft. I love that Delete Me rechecks every quarter and re-requests removals from anything that they find, and I don't have to do a thing. It's all automated. Get 20% off Delete Me US consumer plans by going to joindeleteme.com/ASP and using code ASP at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/ASP and use code ASP at checkout. A member of the healthcare team for the person here in this house has requested a welfare check by officers. So Officer Lou has showed up to give that welfare check. Let's listen in on his badge cam and see what happens.
Hi man, I'm Officer Lou.
The officer continued to knock for 2 minutes and 45 seconds, explaining to Wilson that he wanted to check on her welfare. During this time, Wilson placed her phone next to the door with music playing. At approximately 10:17 a.m., Ms. Wilson opened the door and immediately assaulted the officer with a knife.
How are you?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Hey, back up! No!
Oh yeah!
Back up, back up.
Oh yeah! Oh yeah!
Hey man, I can ask what they're doing. Please back up.
Oh yeah!
Back up!
Oh, yeah.
Back up! Back up! Back up! 531 bubble. Single one. Shots fire.
What is your location?
Start medic, please. The suspect's down. I need medical too.
Units are out, step it up, and fire department is en route.
Additional officers rendered first aid and administered blood to Wilson until fire and rescue personnel arrived on scene. Wilson was taken to a nearby hospital where she was pronounced deceased. The officer was transported to an area hospital with non-life-threatening injuries.
Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay? Okay. Do you have any other injuries?
Do you have any other gloves?
I don't have any other gloves.
Get rescue in here. You used to have them. MCB 41, have fire department come inside. Take care of him. Take care of him. I got him.
Okay. Pete, do you have any injuries on you other than your face?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Was that the knife she had?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can see that the injury that Officer Lou had to his head was pretty significant. It was not life-threatening, thankfully. He did shoot the suspect 3 times, hit her 3 times, and she did not survive her injuries. Holy cow, Mike. That one came at us fast, all right. I'm going to say We got a couple lessons out of this one. Let's think about them. We do know, Mike, from the news stories that Officer Lou is a mental health, trained. He's a crisis intervention trained officer, but the crisis intervention team wasn't available at this time. So he went in, he has some training, but he's not a mental health professional or any of those things. And then the woman is going to come out, see who it is. He comes and says, hey, it's Officer Lou. Are you okay? And then she's just going to immediately close the door on him. And I do want to point out, she is not under obligation to continue to talk to him or to open the door for him. She could just see, nope, out the peephole, I don't want to talk to you and I don't have to answer the door for you.
That I wanted to point out. She opens the door looking like a normal person, a lovely human being, very well kept. She looks like anyone you'd see at your office or, passing by you at the mall. Why I say that is to say this: never assume that anyone is or isn't a threat based solely on their appearance. Now, once that door opens and recloses, I'm backing way off. I might knock again, but I'm backing off a few feet only because there's only two reasons she closed the door on you. One, she doesn't want to talk to you, in which case, fine, backing off or staying close won't make any difference. But if she is in fact arming herself, which is apparently what she was doing, it's a good idea for you to not be standing this close to the door when she comes back.
Yeah, I think standing right in front of the doorway, I admire him sticking around and trying, hey, I'd really like to talk to you. I just want to make sure you're okay. I think trying to do those community caretaking functions is a really heartfelt and values forward part of law enforcement. And I think officers are trying to do that and doing the best they can as a general rule as much as they can. But at the same time, you got to think about your own safety in doing that because, again, you might end up in a spot where, hey, she comes out like lightning with a knife in her hand. And these are the very things where maybe giving yourself some space keeps this from becoming the kind of situation that it does. Doesn't necessarily keep it from becoming it, but it keeps the head wound at bay at least, because she comes right out and that's all the advance notice she gives. And if you're standing right in front of the doorway, you don't have time to respond to this because the human performance factors say it takes you too long to organize, to understand the threat, organize to it, see what's going on, formulate a plan, and enact that plan. That all takes time, about 0.6 of a second. And by that time, she's already swung that knife at you.
Yeah, we used to have something called the FATS machine, the firearms trading system. I think it was. There's newer ones now that are much better, much more technologically advanced. But we used to kind of guffaw and laugh at some of the scenarios they put us through in the FATS machine. It's basically a big video screen, and you have a dummy gun, and it with a laser in it, and you're reacting to scenarios, right? And it seemed like every other scenario was something like this unwinnable mess where someone just jumps at you with a knife all of a sudden. Well, this is a real thing that really happens, as we can see right here in this freeze grab. And as John said, it takes the brain a moment to figure out what's going on. For all he knows, she was going to run out and try to tackle him, or she was going to try to run by him. So the idea that he would be able to process this information, get his gun out and get effective shots on target before he gets hurt is not really realistic. He did the thing I think he needed to do, which was to get the heck away from her to the extent possible. But again, if he's not this close to the door, he has that extra half a second or to a full second of reaction time, and that can make all the difference.
Yeah, and you notice here, he could have just been down the hallway a few steps. Now, he gets down the hallway, gets his gun out, starts wanting her and asking her, stay away from me, please, back up. And he unfortunately backs himself into a corner. And I don't blame him for that. He's kind of in a maze here, right? He backs himself into a hallway that doesn't have an exit. And so he's in a real pickle here. Again, I don't blame him for that, but had he shot her right here, she's already attacked him with a knife and walking that down, I really think that I'd have had no problem with it whatsoever. But I think this speaks to his heart that he is trying his best not to, Mike.
Yeah, I can't disagree with anything you just said, John. I think this guy really did want to help. And that shows by his actions and his restraint. You're going to think I'm a goofball for saying this, but if I go to a hotel I haven't been to before, if I get to room 2131, right, I'm going to find where the exit is. I'm going to find the exit sign, verify that that's a real stairway that actually works and gets me outside, and I'm going to count the number of door frames in between my door and that door. Maybe I'll remember that in the case of a fire. Maybe I won't. But at least I will have had just a small little bit of mental preparation for if I have to crawl on the floor because there's smoke in the hallway, how many doors am I counting until I get to the exit, right? Because you're not going to be able to see anything. I think as a police officer approaching a situation like this, just take that extra second. Like John says, treat every call like a training evolution and go, hey, if here's the door, right? I've identified that. If something goes bad, where's my escape route? Just give yourself that extra second to be like, how am I going to get out of here? I'm not saying that would have helped. I'm not saying he could have made, the left and gone down that hallway. if he had done that, but at least give yourself that extra little bit of one-upsmanship to be like, okay, well, at least I know where I'm going if bullets came flying through the door or whatever else happened. Just something to think about.
Yeah, and I can't argue with any of that. That seems like a lot to me as a private citizen, but given that might have helped here, I think that, hey man, you're probably smarter than I am in that particular case. Now, again, she's closing the distance here, and why he waits to this point is beyond me. As she closed that distance, he should have gone a little sooner. The other thing that I really want to talk about here, Mike, is if you look on camera here, that shot is as high center chest as high center chest gets. I don't think it could have been placed any better. There's probably powder marks on her from that shot, and yet it did not put her down immediately. Handguns do not do a good job of immediately incapacitating in any caliber at any distance. And so you've got to be ready to put multiple shots and to maintain your distance because of situations like this.
Yeah, I understand. The bad guy you're dealing with or bad gal in this circumstance, they may or may not have watched a bunch of TV shows and Hollywood movies where someone gets shot once and they fall down and close their eyes and stop being a threat. So if your person you're interacting with is determined enough, they can fight through several. I mean, unless you get them right in the off switch, right between the eyes and this little area right here. They could fight through any number of shots. So bear in mind that your first, second, third round might not stop them. You've got to stop the threat. I think something else to mention here, John, is I don't know. I have no idea if this is the case, but in the back of this officer's mind, he might have been hesitant to shoot because this is a black female and he doesn't want to see himself dragged through the mud on the national news for doing something untoward or something due to a racial bias or whatever. It's something I think needs to be mentioned. As an officer, you've got to just pay attention to the facts. What is actually happening in front of me? You can't concern yourself with what might happen down the road, how something might look. You've got to take the facts presented to you and act on them judiciously and quickly.
And it's not like he was there to arrest her or anything. He was just checking in on her. Just being like, hey, is everything okay? So that's when we got that idea again of flipping that switch that says, hey, I've got a gun pointed at you. You start closing the distance on me and I am not going to allow that to happen. I am going to end this a little bit sooner. So you notice again that gunshot goes off and then she's coming after him. He gets after her again and finally puts another shot on her. And with 3 shots, then she goes down. Now he's going to call in and man, he's as cool as the other side of the pillow, Mike, at calling this one in. But I will say kind of our final thing that I really want to talk about here is as he sits down there, you can see the fact that the blood is pouring out of his face right now. And this is why you carry your first aid kit, officers, on your person, not one in the cruiser. One in the cruiser is fine. You keep one in your shop, whatever, that's great. But you got to have one for you on your person right now. And probably the right answer here is either some gauze or some hemostatic gauze and just keeping pressure on that wound until the cavalry arrives.
Yeah, if you're an active duty law enforcement officer and your agency for some reason hasn't given you stop the bleed training, hasn't given you CPR and first aid and all that sort of thing, you got to go out on your own and get it. I'm sure the Red Cross, does stuff for free or very inexpensively. And absolutely true. What John said is 100% true. You have to have that as a uniformed officer or deputy. You have no excuse, especially if you have a load-bearing vest, to fit a good-sized IFAC on there, individual first aid kit. That first aid kit is primarily for you, right? For if you get injured. And at this point, there's nothing else for him to do other than, I would set my gun on the ground, get my stuff situated, get that gauze up, start putting pressure on my head, pick my gun back up and cover back down on her if I had to. But getting that bleeding stopped as quickly as possible is critical. Now, I know if you get cut above the brow line, you bleed more, but it's not necessarily, the end of the world. You're probably not going to bleed to death, but he can't know that in this moment. He has no idea how badly he's hurt. So getting pressure, getting gauze or hemostatic gauze in there quickly as possible is in fact critical. And if you haven't trained to do it before, you're not going to rise to the occasion in the moment. You have to have that training ahead of time.
You really do. And the presence of mind to use it, right? Now, I'm going to say the thing that I think most people will leave unsaid with the responding units that show up, and specifically the plainclothes officer who, bold to him, man, he heard what was going on, plainclothes, not a part of the situation, and he is going to show up to try to help. And I think that is laudatory. The thing that I will say that a lot of people won't is most times CPR is for the benefit of the family. It's not for the victim. Once, when you have a non-survivable wound, and if this woman, again, it's been several minutes, she's not breathing, she's got no pulse on her own, you're not going to bring her back. So CPR is probably in that case not going to help in any capacity. So why is he doing it? He's probably doing it for the body-worn camera and for the family, Mike.
Yeah, I lost my breath for a moment watching this video, or I was left breathless for a moment because she asked, he goes, yeah, shots fired, suspect down, I'm bleeding, whatever. And the dispatcher says, location? And in my head, I'm like, what do you mean location? You absolutely should know where this guy is, right? This is another little pointer. Always know where you are in law enforcement. Always have at least cross streets or 100 block of what street you're in. And if you're on a call, make sure dispatch is abundantly aware of the fact that you're at 123 Main Street, second floor hallway in front of apartment 108. And if for some reason they don't have your stuff memorized, you need to have it written down on a notepad or something so that you can tell them where you are. If they don't know where you are and you can't direct them to your location, you got problems, right? You got problems getting her medical attention and getting you medical attention. At the end of the day, this officer was incredibly brave. He went into the situation, I think John and I both agree, with every intention, with his to utilize his training and get this woman the help that she might need. At the end of the day, that wasn't possible. She forced the hand. The perp has the ultimate vote in how things end. She chose violence that day, and this officer covered his ass.